Do Kryptonians have dog tags? And if they do, what do they look like? Well, today I'm designing and making a General Zod dog tag. Let's do it! The first step is to get our design cut out of some wax. Now time to carve this thing out. We'll cut it out and then use our baby to clean up the edges nice and clean. Alright, now that we have the Z more or less carved out, we're going to start setting up a spot for this bale to go. So we'll pull it out, mark our spot out, and then get that carved. Now we have our bale all seated in there really nice and tight.
I see that from your tight pants.
I'm really happy with that. What I'm thinking is this is all kind of plain and boring really if it's going to be the same level. So what I want to do is have that be a little proud. So if it stuck out a little bit like that, that would give it a lot more interest to me. And that's kind of what I want to do, different levels like that. So in order to do that, we have our thickness of our bale. I'm going to leave that alone. And to be honest, this guy's a little thick already anyway, so I think I'm going to thin this thing out from the back. Thing's turning out really cool. I can't wait. All right, let's do it. now it's all finished. All the carving is about done. And what we need to do now is get it sprued up and put on this base. And we're gonna go ahead and get it ready for casting. Before we put it onto our base, I want to weigh them, make sure we know how much silver we're going to need. So what we're going to do here is we weigh this out and then we multiply it by 12 and that'll get us the amount of silver that we need. Well, then we'll add a little bit for the button too, so we'll add half an ounce for the button just to make sure we have plenty of silver. All right, now we'll be vacuuming out the bubbles. All right, it's the next morning. We are about ready to cast. The first thing we're gonna do is get ready by filling up a bucket with water. Once we have that done, we're gonna go ahead, pull down a crucible, and then melt our pure silver, which comes from a 1 ounce silver eagle from a coin ring that I made. This is the scrap that came from it. And the reason we're doing that is because it melts at the highest melting point. You wanna start with your highest melting point and go down from there. So then we'll melt that one. Once that's melted, we'll add in our 90% coin silver scraps. And once that melts all together, we're going to carefully dump it into our bucket of water, which will make our sterling silver casting grain. Once that's dried up, we're ready to cast our piece. Looking pretty good. We'll go ahead and get all the investment cleaned out of it real quick with a scrub brush, and we'll get it cut off of there. Okay, So we have our hole drilled through both sides of this guy, and we have a slightly larger hole drilled through our bail. Here's the wire we're going to be using to connect the entire thing. Let's see how it works. We want it to be relatively snug. That'll work. That's exactly what we want. That's so cool. And you know one thing that is a little bit frustrating about this bail? I was in such a hurry to get it invested yesterday that I forgot to cut the hole for the chain in it, in the wax. Because that would have been, you know, way easier to cut a hole in wax than it is in silver. So what I'm gonna do now is drill a hole through this thing and then get a ball burr and ball burr it out, and then we're gonna go ahead and cut it out. So we'll get doing that, and then we'll get this thing all put together. Okay guys, so we have this thing all ready to go together. It's all cleaned up. Got our holes drilled in the side, obviously. We have our bail pot all figured out. And I was about to start to put the wire together, but then I got to thinking, what do you guys think about adding this? This is almost a carat salt and pepper diamond, shield cut diamond. Nothing screams Superman quite like a shield, and I think it would be a really cool addition to this pendant. It's gonna be a little bit more work though. So what we're gonna have to do, so I think I'm gonna go with it. I think what we're gonna do is put some sticky wax on the back of it and set the stone exactly where we want it on the pendant. Once we have it like that, we'll take our scribe and mark all the way around it, then remove the stone, and then sink down that area till we can get below the sides of this girdle right here. Once it's sunk down below, we can set it, and I think we'll be about ready to go. I'm kind of excited about this. This pendant is looking really, really cool. So that's what we're doing now. All right, before we set this stone, I think we have to do a couple other things first. I think the first things first is we'll antique this guy before we put this on, and then we'll weld that rod in there and have everything finished before we start to set the stone. So I think that's what we're gonna do, is antique, do the wire in there, and then we'll set the stone. Then we'll be about done. Well, we have a little bit of engraving to do. Then we'll be done. All right, let's do it. And this is what we're gonna be using to antique today. We're gonna be using this background antiquing from Grobet. And we'll just let that dry and then sand it off. Then we'll go ahead and move on to the wire. Okay, so we have our pendant all antiqued, and we have our wire through here now. So we just need to weld either side of that wire. And usually you would solder something like that, but I just recently picked this up from Pepe Tools. It's the new Orion Pulse Arc welder. Super excited about using this thing. So all we're gonna do is weld either side of that and then sand it smooth, and then we can go back to setting that stone. Looks pretty good. I think we'll mark that. All right, so now we have it set in place. Just need to flush set it with this guy, our little flush setter. It's just basically a broken off burr that we've rounded off and smoothed and polished. Just gonna carefully fold the sides over. All right, that's all set in there. So now I'm of two minds. I feel like I want to fill a lot of this blank area with something, engraving or something. But most of the Kryptonian stuff that I've seen is pretty blank. So I think I'm gonna leave it off for now. But what I'm going to do though, is the back's totally empty, which we just can't have that. So I was doing some research last night, not to sound nerdy, but there's all kinds of Kryptonian symbols and stuff that are kind of cool. So I was thinking about putting the Kryptonian symbol for strength on the back. I could totally see General Zod's soldier wanting that on the back of their dog tag, right?
25 the last minute I live on this rock. Planet Mars, star, planet raw, took trips and landed.
All right, so that's what we're gonna do. I'm going to lay out the design for that Kryptonian symbol, and then we're gonna engrave it, darken it, and then that will be that. It'll be finished. Alright guys, it's finally finished. I just absolutely love the way this diamond looks like in the sun. It just shimmers and looks amazing. The bail's super cool the way it articulates like that. I hope you guys loved it as much as I liked making it. Just a blast. And also, super big announcement, I finally hit 200,000 subscribers. That means a toolless giveaway finally is going to be happening. So I'm going to be reviewing through all the entries and randomly picking one, and I will contact the winner. And also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but this is like totally different than my regular shop. A bit of a life update, I guess. We sold our house, and that means my shop went with it, and we're going to be looking for a new place. And the whole purpose was to build a much bigger shop so that way we can go back to having classes again. Haven't had classes in quite a while, and I'm really ready to get those started again. So stay tuned. It's a little bit of a longer term thing, but for the meantime, I'm really super grateful to my parents. They're letting me take over half of their shop downstairs, and I actually have a nice Joy studio to work in while we're looking. So super grateful to my mom and dad for that. Really thank you guys for that. Thanks again guys, watching all the way to the end of the video. Thank you guys for subscribing and following along in this journey of jewelry making that we've been on. Alright guys, thanks again, and I will catch you on the next one.